All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's continue with our Module 4 notes. These notes are going to be for Lesson 24, 4-24. And the title is going to be a bit longer, so we have to be careful to squeeze it in. We are going to be practicing some word problems. I know that part doesn't seem very long. Word problems with fraction, word problems with fraction and decimal, there we are, decimal multiplication. Going into the margin a little bit, that's okay. So today's word problems, the problems you'll see in class, are going to be involving fractions and decimals being multiplied together. Remember, you have to turn them both into fractions or both into decimals before you solve. This is lesson 10 plus 10 is 20 plus 1 less than 5. So 24. I like Module 4 because it has all these lessons with these high Roman numerals. It's kind of fun. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with example number 1. I know sometimes it's hard when we have to copy down these word problems. Again, as always, feel free to pause. Take as much time as you need to get it written down. Okay. Here's example number 1. Jesse's dog weighs 23 pounds. So Jesse's dog weighs 23 pounds. Okay. His cat, Jesse apparently has a dog and a cat. His cat weighs 5/8. 5/8. 5/8 as much. That's a clue phrase. 5/8 as much as his dog. How much does his cat weigh? How much does his cat weigh? Now, Jesse's dog weighs 23 pounds. His cat weighs 5/8 as much as his dog. I mentioned that was a clue phrase. Anytime we have a fraction as much, we're usually thinking about multiplication. Now, we're multiplying times his dog. Well, I can't multiply times the words. So, as nice as that would be, 5/8 times his dog won't work. We have to replace his dog with a number. Well, we have a value for his dog's weight. His dog weighs 23 pounds. So 23 is what we'll put in. Now to multiply this, we have a few options. We can rewrite it as a improper fraction, I should say, multiply across. Normally I'd say you could even try to do some division, whole number divided by denominator, but 23 divided by 8 will not work evenly. So I think our best bet here is to just multiply numerator times whole number, numerator times whole number, and we'll put that all over the original denominator. So we're going to divide. When I multiply 5 times 23, I think of that as 5 20s. 5 times 20, that would be 100, plus 5 3s. 5 times 3 is 15. So 115 divided by 8. Okay. Now I'm going to have to do a little bit of division to solve that. 115 divided by 8. So slide this down. 115 divided by 8. Put that a little close here, but I want to make sure we have enough room to work. Actually, you know what? Sorry, folks. I am going to slide that down a line. I know it's frustrating probably for some of you when I do that, but it's very important when you're doing the math calculations that you space things out, that your handwriting is neat. That will help you prevent mistakes. We've talked about that. So I'm going to skip not just one line, but 2 lines. And I'll put my division problem here. 115 divided by 8. 8 will go into 1 no times. 8 will go into 11 one time. 1 times 8 is 8. 11 minus 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, is 3. Okay. Bring down the 5. 8 goes into 35 about 4 times, because I know that 4 times 8 is 32. Subtract those out. 35 minus 32. You get 3. Now, I have a couple options here. I could stop where I'm at. There's nothing else right now to bring down. I could just write 3 as a remainder, 3 over 8. And I could say that the cat weighs 14 3/8 pounds. But let's say that the problem specifically asks for us to write it as a decimal. If that happens, then I just continue my division. I add my decimal point, put it straight up here too. I'll add my invisible 0. I haven't been making the dashed lines lately. I'm going to get back to that. Now remember, if this goes on too long, if it goes on 3 spaces, we're going to stop. 5th graders, we do not need to go beyond hundredths, thousandths. We don't need to go past thousandths. 8 goes into 30. Well, 4 times 8 is 24. 5 times 8 is, okay, so 5 times 8 would be 40. So 4 times 8 is 32. Wow, I had trouble with that for a second. Let's go with 3 times 8, shall we? Some of you probably watching at home. What's going on? All right. Hopefully that looks better. The weirdest, just mental blank there. 3 times 8 is 24. 10 minus 4 is 6. 2 minus... Okay. Add another invisible 0. Now I can tell already that 60 is not going to work evenly. Okay. 8 will go into 60 about 7 times. Good, my multiplication tables are back. Whew. 7 times 8 is 56. Oh, but finally, I see a light at the end of the tunnel, because I know how many times 8 will go into 40. I may have mentioned it accidentally a moment ago. 5 times 8 is 40. Now, I would normally go through and subtract that out, but just to make sure we have space for our next problem, I'm going to leave it alone. So, a little divider here. Okay. We already know the cat weighs 14 3/8 pounds. Or, we can say it a different way. We can also say the cat weighs 14 375 thousandths pounds. I'm not sure which would really be better. They're both kind of convoluted because of the fraction, because of the decimal. So really, unless the problem asks, it comes down to what you prefer, what you are comfortable with. But the idea here is we read the problem, we looked for a clue phrase, we used that to write an expression. Once we had the expression, we simplified it as much as we could, got to a fraction, and then it was time to divide. Okay. All right. Let's do one more example. Let's do letter B. Example number 2. Okay. For example number 2, an image of a snowflake. So a picture of a snowflake. An image of a snowflake is 1.8 centimeters wide. So just a little bit under 2 centimeters. This picture is pretty small. Now the crazy thing is the snowflake itself is even smaller. If the actual snowflake, and if you've ever been in the snow and had a snowflake fall on your sleeve, you know they're tiny. If the actual snowflake is 1/8 the size of 1/8 the size of the image, what was, good grief, I can't multiply, I can't spell. What an embarrassing video this is turning out to be. If the actual snowflake is 1/8 the size of the image, what is its width? What is its width? Now, this time I am going to be particular as a decimal. We've talked before about how the metric system, centimeters and meters, are made to work with decimals. So for our final answer, we're going to need it in that form. Now we don't have a ton of space here, so I'm going to have to try to be careful how I fit this in. 1/8 the size of, there's another clue phrase. 1/8 of, hold on. I'm just going to try to squeeze it in for space, but let's make sure it looks like what we have up above. 1/8 of 1/8 times 1 8/10. 1 8/10. 1 8/10. Now, some of you may be thinking, it's supposed to be as a decimal. Why am I turning it into this? Well, turning 1/8 into a decimal is going to be kind of a pain. And then I have to do decimal multiplication. I'm going to see if I can turn this into something I can just divide once and be done. You can choose this option, or if it's easier, turn them both into decimals to start and multiply. Again, you have different options here. But for me, I'm going to look at this and say 1/8 times 1 8/10. And I know that that would be the same as 1/8 times 10 times 1 is 10, plus 8 is 18 tenths. 1/8 times 18 tenths. I can cross cancel, which you know I love. Both of these are even, which means I can divide both of them by 2. 8 divided by 2 is 4. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So when I multiply those two together, 1 times 9 is 9. 4 times 10 is 40. Remember, 18 over 8. Pretend it's a fraction. You're simplifying down to 9 over 4. You're dividing them both by the same factor. Okay, 9/40. Ooh, this will be fun. 9 divided by 40. Well, it's not going into 9, so I may as well just add my invisible decimal, or my decimal, my invisible zeros now. I will put that 40 goes in 0 times. Invisible 0, 40 goes in twice. 2 times 40 would be 80. 90 minus 80 would be 10. Okay, doing all right so far. Let's bring down another invisible 0. 40 will go into 100 twice. 2 times 40 is 80 again. At least we're getting something a little bit different. 10 minus 8. 10 minus 8 is 2, so now we have 20. Well, I'm out of space after this, and I'm in my third column, my third place value, so it better be into 200. Now 40 into 200, I look at that and I think, sure would be nice if I could ignore that 0 and that 0, then it would be 4 into 20, and I know 4 goes into 20 5 times. Well, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 4 is 20. What do you know? it works. So, the actual size of the snowflake, 1/8 of 1 8/10 centimeters, the actual size is going to be 225 thousandths of a centimeter, which is ridiculously small. Remember how small a centimeter is. It's about the size of the nail on your pinky finger, maybe a little bigger. All right, this was a lengthier lesson. I know the word problem ones have a tendency to be longer. Let me zoom out so you can get one last good look. If you have any questions, make sure you bring them to class. I will make sure that I'm boxing up my answers also. I know you are. Okay. Please make sure that you bring this to class. We'll check it off and answer questions, and we'll practice some more of these word problems then. All right. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.